Okay, hi. Welcome to another episode of HR Nightmares. It's the gang. Want to introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. I'm Beth.
I'm Amy Conway.
And I'm Lisa Leath, and we are all senior certified HR experts. And although we're not your HR expert. If you want to pay for our expertise specific to your business, we'd love to have your business. Make sure you get a hold of Leath HR Group because the consultants are available. But we're here to offer you some free advice here on this episode called Managers from Hell. It is a follow-up to our well-enjoyed and liked and disliked episode about employees from hell.
Oh, was it disliked as well?
This is the best part about having a podcast. It's like all PR is good PR, I guess. All press is good press. Do we agree with this?
Yeah, you're like, you've got to go with that.
What's funny, I saw a couple, I rarely read the comments on social media, but I read something that was so funny, and it said, those women, I don't know, whatever he called us, must have worked for some really terrible companies where they have bad people. And I wanted to be like, my company was incredible. It's called Nordstrom. You can go shop there. It has the best customer service in the United States. And the people are great. But there's a lot of people, and some of them are bad.
Yeah.
The company is not bad.
Yeah. I mean, we work for
It happens in all companies.
Yeah.
I laughed at that. I was like, where do you work? Are you the only employee?
Yeah. It's like humans can be terrible, but they can also be wonderful. And we love talking about wonderful,
which we said.
Wonderful employees. And we love talking about wonderful managers and good management practices. But today we're here to tell some funny stories and keep you away from those HR nightmares. We want to make your HR dreams come true by sharing some of our experiences and what not to do to avoid those HR nightmares. So when we think about managers from hell, what comes to mind?
Beth?
Beth wants actually.
I
Beth
have
just wants to
a
make
lot.
Beth the entire.
I know. I'm like
episode.
spread out.
Neck.
I'm going to start beginning now. So I think a lot of the time it is, I think a lot of it has to do with how you treat people, right? If you treat people professionally and nice. I had one manager one time when I asked specifically, like, hey, can I get 15 minutes on your calendar? And he was really, I guess, stressed and overwhelmed. He or she, maybe I'll try to hide the person.
Anonymity.
But rather than saying, I'm really swamped today, maybe we can do it later in the week, he did this. He sat back in his chair and he gave me the double finger. And I was so, exactly those faces. I was like, and I was a senior level, leadership team person. And I was like, not really quite sure. My mouth was open. I was like, what the hell?
Did you have that kind of relationship with him, where
we
he
didn't
could give you the middle finger and you could laugh about it?
We didn't have a
Who
joke.
has that kind of relationship?
We didn't have a joking relationship. And I just was so offended. Because it was it was an easy request. But if I had a relationship, if I was working with my college bestie and she did it, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes, my God, I think that you act, and when you're a manager, you have to remember everybody's watching you all the time. And so act normal and don't give somebody, not just the single, but the double.
At least wait till they walk down the hall.
Yeah, with the door shut, you can do whatever you want. But that was just nuts. And to be honest, that moment, was like a click moment for me that I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah, I got to get out of here.
I've got to get out of here, and that's what I did very soon after.
Well, and I think that that's probably the theme of bad managers, right? Is that immediately people want to leave the organization. When you have a bad manager, it takes one day to kind of determine, this is not the right place.
No.
Whether you've been there for years and all of a sudden you're being managed by, it's one of the leading reasons that people leave companies is bad managers.
It's funny because sometimes everyone thinks it's pay, and I think we spend so much time trying to put money towards unhappy or unsatisfied employees.
Yeah.
But really, it boils down to how they're managed, how they're led.
Mm-hmm. That's a low bar to just say, hey, if you're a manager, don't give your employees the double middle fingers when they ask for 15 minutes of your time.
Yeah, that's just bare minimum.
So let's move up the ladder, right? It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Right.
Okay.
Don't double finger somebody.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But the reaction to just simple requests, like not being able to manage your emotions, is definitely just the self-awareness of being a person at work, but like, especially if you've got direct reports, like watching how you kind of, and that's hard for me, like move your face or react to things. But even like I tell first-time managers this too, it's like when someone walks into your office and we're on our computers or our devices all day long, right? Like even just physically, like sitting back and then turning your body and making eye contact to the person that came in your office can just be like a moment of, oh, they give a shit about me, versus like, yeah, what do you need? Okay, keep working on the computer and kind of like multitasking, which never really totally works with a focus on the person.
I can't stand that. When people are doing that to me, I go in and I have conversations a lot in people's office, and I'm like, do you need to respond to that? Can we get back to this? I'm like, what are you doing? You can't be like looking at your computer and talking to me at the same time.
It's so disrespectful.
Yes,
right?
It drives me nuts.
What about this? This I know has happened to me before, and I know that it's happened to a lot of other companies. What about when a manager is maybe unsure of themselves and they're reporting to someone else, right? So they're a little bit unsure of their skills and they want to look good for their bosses. And so they steal or take credit for your work.
Yeah, or
that
they
happens
throw
a lot.
under the bus, right?
Yep.
They also can blame, right?
Right.
To get the blame off of them.
I think that goes to my opinion for that. My psychological analysis is that it's a real insecurity for them. And so when that happens, that sure does. I mean, have you ever witnessed that?
Yeah, I witnessed that currently in things where I'm like, ooh, that's something else, right? But what's funny is when I sit in a room and I get told like the scenario by somebody else of what happened, right? And I know these human beings pretty well, and I think that wasn't what was really happening. What was really happening? But what I think, from a leadership perspective, and this isn't necessarily managers from hell, right? But just poor leadership is like that inability to really figure out what the person is really there for, right? Or the ability to see through that. But that was the big thing that used to frustrate me in my old role, was those people who were such tale tellers, right? And I'm like, they are so full of it. How does leadership not see
Win
that?
as a team, lose as a
Yes,
team. And
I'm
that's
like,
what you need to do as a leader.
Yeah.
As a manager.
Also, I always remember my dad was such a good advisor to me when I was younger in my career, because he had so many, high-level jobs, and he would always advise me, the best way that you can succeed for anyone to look at you is if your team is succeeding.
Yeah.
So you really do want to give credit where credit's due. If you're a manager listening to this, give credit where credit's due. Don't ever take credit for somebody's work. That's just so deflating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's just
even if
dishonest.
it is your idea, but you've like discussed it with your team, it's just kind of nice to say like, hey, we discussed it and we decided and we're going to do this. And I find myself every single day, even looking at my emails or like being super conscious, and I don't do 100% great job, but like I try to really, where I would say I, or I've written I try to go back and be like, is there a we? Yes, there's a we. Nope, no more I, we. But even if you're a conscientious leader and manager, you really need to always be thinking about every day, all day long, like when can you say we instead of I?
I love that.
It sucks when people take credit. And especially as a manager, like, you already got the promotion. Like, give somebody else a chance.
Yeah, you're in that seat. And I think it's like, if they succeed, you're only going to look better.
Yeah.
And what if they get promoted then to something bigger, right? You don't want to hold them back.
Yeah. They should come work in HR, because I always think to myself, like, if I want a leader to do something, I'm like, okay, I'm going to drop it in today. And then in 6 months, they're going to come back to me and think this was their idea. And now all of a sudden they'll be on board and think it's really great. But it's the way like I influence, and like, I'm like, eventually, right? So they should just come work in HR, because I can never take credit for anything.
Yeah.
Because it takes me 6 months to sell it to any leader, and I have to make them think it's their idea.
Right. And then they're like, we've got this great benefits program. And
I'm
you're like,
you do?
that's amazing.
I'd love
worked
to
on that
support that. You're like,
Yeah.
I said that a year ago.
Managers from hell. Like, I think it's back to the hostility. Like, I'm just reflecting on like the all-time
Yeah, do you
worst.
have any really good stories?
Oh, I work with this like terrible leader, like executive leader. And I don't know if he was just like doing steroids or something, but like hyper, like hostile, like outwardly hostile with his language, with the way he walked, with his like blood. I mean, he must have had high blood pressure like nonstop. Always red, just mad, but like thought he was funny, but he was just obnoxious and scary. Even to the point of like visiting a facility where we had employees working on the floor and like body checked like a frontline worker that he didn't think was being productive enough, and that the manager had, I mean, like very hostile. The same guy was like a super chauvinist, and I remember I was pregnant and he said, "What's going on with you? Like, I thought, like, are you drinking a lot of beer or something?" I'm like, I was not ready to tell anyone, but no, I'm pregnant. Thanks for commenting on my body.
On my,
Like, like, what if I had gastro issues or I just was gaining
what
weight?
What if I did gain weight? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that
like,
either.
oh my gosh. So, I mean, just like all the things. And, you know, so hey, I love the F word probably more than most people, but like this guy couldn't help himself. Here, there, everywhere. Didn't know his audience. Maybe he did. I mean, he just didn't care.
He didn't care.
And the leader would not get rid of him. And that just always boggled my mind because I thought ethically there were some things that were going down as well.
Well,
that,
body
I mean, just
checking another employee.
I was
honestly,
mortified. That was sort of like you talked about the check, like getting the double middle finger when your boss didn't want to have a one-on-one. Like, the body checking of an employee. I was like, this is why people hate HR, because people like that get to keep getting paid $500,000.
And think about this guy who's just getting body checked by his boss as they're doing a walk through the plant.
I would have filed. I would have filed a criminal charge.
Yeah.
Like I would have filed an assault charge. But of course it was like mono. Yeah.
You're the HR person, like, I would advise you to file an assault charge. I'll back you up.
Just a little
Yeah.
note.
I didn't but I swear to God, that was just
That
an
kind
awful.
of anger stuff is crazy. I remember working for, oh my Lord, I've worked a lot of small companies, right? You guys have bigger job experiences. My experience tends to be in smaller businesses. And I worked for one company. It was a French steel company, whatever, how I get these jobs, for a long ago. And they were getting a divorce, and it was she was the president of the company, and he was like the chief financial officer. And so they had offices together, and they would call on me to go in to talk.
Oh,
yeah, you
had to
tell
be
him.
the
Blah, blah,
marriage
blah, blah. And I was
counselor.
like, ugh. I mean, it was real, and they were so angry with each other. And one time, he literally like cleared his desk, like threw, like with his arms, and everything on his desk fell to the floor, and he called her all kinds of names. And I'm like,
Okay.
all righty, I'm out.
Yeah.
It was just like, I cannot believe it. But yeah, I think, this is my little tip. If anyone's listening, I think that you need to be consistent. I think there's nothing worse than if you're being managed by someone who's like up, down, like super
that's
happy.
really hard.
I brought coffee for everybody. And then the next day they're slamming around, slamming their door.
Throwing
I think
a phone.
that just is like, oh my gosh. That's like my biggest recommendation whenever I'm working with people. It's like, just maintain a constant, even flow.
Try to be consistent.
You don't have to be the person
think
that's like
great
super
advice.
chipper, but
Yeah, sometimes,
constant.
I had leaders where it's like, God, they're not that great of a person, but at least they're like that every day. So I know what to expect, right? Like I know what I'm coming into. It is the ones where it's like, yesterday we got along great, and now today you're critiquing me for what? Like,
right.
It's just an up and down and up and down. And I am someone that like a deep empath that feels a lot of people's energy, and it puts me into high anxiety because I am pretty consistent of what I am. But
you talk about just like critiquing people. So when I was thinking about managers from hell, I was thinking about this one like senior manager that I worked with that would just give everybody like a public review. So he'd get pissed at whatever the utilization or the productivity of the company we were working at. And like in meetings in front of 20 people, he would just find that guy that he would just ridicule and make to feel like they were this big.
In front of other people.
In front of everyone. And it was like a regular occurrence.
That's bullying.
It was like, I mean, it was terrible. I would never have stayed if he did that to me. But But I have, like, even early in my career, I think new grads that are, naive and have a great outlook on the working world, when they step into a workforce, I remember another, senior leader who I looked up to at the time. I stopped looking up to him after this. He like pointed me out in the back of like 400 new hires, and he was like, "Oh, we've got this corporate cog back there that I'm just waiting. We just got to get through the next year and a half, and she'll move on to corporate." And it was like, oh, that's like the critiquing of a young person, especially, that is just sort of finding their way.
Yeah.
And just trying to do good work and like show up with optimism and like show up to the world in a good place, and then getting critiqued for just trying and caring.
For really stupid
It just
things.
is awful.
The
And so
spotlight on you too is embarrassing.
it's embarrassing. So whether or not you're a seasoned professional and you're maybe like your department's not doing great, or maybe your project went downhill, it's not being as profitable as you thought it would be, getting publicly critiqued in front of colleagues is awful.
I think, there's a lot of brain science around how much feedback, like, we as humans can actually process in our brain. And, like, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of
This
that.
reminds me
People
of another manager
can
from
Google
hell.
that, right? But I face that even now. I've had a few scenarios recently where I've had to, like, say to people, like, you need to really take a step back and ask yourself, is it necessary for me to provide that feedback, right? It's like calling out a spelling error on an email that was just like a nothing email.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need that criticism. So why don't you just wait for something that's actually important? Because now I look at you and I think that's your problem.
Yeah.
And if you can't like get out of your own perfectionism to not over critique everyone around you, I'm like,
that's great.
I don't care if your
advice, too.
email has a spelling error, because you and I do completely different jobs, and it really doesn't matter. No one's reading the email from the HR girl anyway, so who cares if something's spelled wrong? But I think I'm sensitive to it too, because I worked in an environment, and like I said at the beginning of this episode, wonderful company, love it, but it's a hypercritical environment because that's part of what we do.
Yeah.
It's a merchandising. It's
showing
a
up
brand.
perfect.
It's showing up, looking the part. We worked in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
So, like, it is known for the hyper criticism. And after 20 years of that, always like people looking you up and down. I had store managers one time when I was like a younger manager comment that I had wrinkles on my dress or in my skirt. I'm like,
oh,
well,
thank
yeah,
God.
I've been
Your
here.
face.
I was like,
No. Like wrinkles on my outfit. And I'm like, yeah, I've been here for 6 hours already.
Right.
Should I go get it
It's
steamed?
linen.
Yeah, should I go to alterations to get this steamed on lunch break?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. But that's how like overly critical people were. So I constantly now
But when
am
you're-
looking at that. And with young people, I'm like, I don't need you to come over to me and like critique the people that I manage. I'll worry about what I think is important for them to learn.
Yeah.
But you really run the risk if you do things like that. You probably, after they critiqued your wrinkles, you probably were so disengaged from the
I couldn't
day.
stand that leader.
But then the day
I
you're
already
just
didn't like
the day
her.
is
And then when
shot.
she said that, I'm like, I believe I looked at her, and she was quite senior to me. And I looked at her and go, is there anything else that you'd like to tell me today? Because that felt like a lot. So I'm going to go now. It was like 4:30 in the afternoon.
my God.
I'm like, yeah, I've been sitting at a desk for 4 hours working on stuff. So yeah, my dress is probably wrinkled.
Well, at least it's not wrinkles on your body.
I work.
No, I was
Yeah.
younger.
No.
I was
Oh my
10
gosh.
years younger then. I had no wrinkles.
That reminded me of a complete manager from hell that I worked with. She was just always looking for ways to undercut everyone. Didn't matter if they reported to her, they were in another department. It was a colleague of hers, which at the time I was a colleague. And she used to always sort of blanket her feedback by saying, "Can I give you some feedback?"
No. The answer is always no.
Look at our body language. We're all like, ugh.
And
The
I'm
answer
a
is
young
always
HR manager, just so happy to be on the
could
staff. And like, I said, sure. And like, by the 10th time, I came home and I was, fuck that, to my mom, right? Who's like got a career in HR. And she goes, you know what you should say to her next time? I've had about enough feedback from you.
Yeah, that's what I said. The answer is no.
Do you
cannot
know
give me feedback.
how good it felt?
Did you say it?
Oh, yeah, because every week we had a one-on-one, and at the end of every one-on-one, she'd say, "Can I give you some feedback?" Every week.
Was it okay? But to be fair, was it to like, hey,
nitpicky?
I see that you're like going to be a superstar.
No.
Okay.
Oh no.
No, it was you
It
have
was just
wrinkles
like
on your
ding,
chin.
ding, ding.
No. And so when I got to say to her, you know what? I've had enough feedback from you. She was like
Dumbfounded.
did not know what to do with that because everybody accepted feedback from her because she put it in such a nice way. And so you know what? If you had enough feedback, let them know.
Like I don't always need your critique. Like I already know. I looked at that. I know there was a spelling error, but I can't retract the thing yet. So like, thanks for pointing it out.
Right.
Like
that's the kind of
For me, I'm like, people are those are the managers that drove me nuts the most. And
Yes,
I'm like,
managers
I
from hell.
already critique myself and hold myself to a really high expectation. So what makes you think that I didn't already come to that realization? Why don't you come and ask me a question first instead of just like telling me what you think and what's on your mind?
How about this? How about managers from hell because they sleep around with the employees?
Oh my God, you guys, to this day.
That is horrifying. I've never witnessed any of that. Never.
No.
Oh, I had a
Listen.
colleague that worked with someone.
We had a lot of attractive people in Nordstrom, so I'm just saying.
They were
like,
looking good, no wrinkles.
Looking
They
good.
were like, look, we're in the fashion
dressed
industry.
the part. They looked good. No, to this day, one of my favorite people that I ever worked for, and I was in the job for a pretty short time because it was one of those jobs that were like, you got to get this job to get that job. So I was only in the job like 10 or 11 months. I adored working for him. I learned so much from him. He was probably not your epitome of like a polished leader from a stance of like maybe cross the line a little bit. Yeah, he ended up like sleeping with one of my peers, right? And he managed all of us. I mean, luckily, like he ended up marrying her and they had babies, so it like worked out well in the end. But I'm like, could you have waited till she maybe just wasn't on your team any longer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a
Like,
little awkward.
So yes, it honestly it did happen sometimes, unfortunately.
We had a manager. He was so, I'm like going down memory lane, but he was truly awful. And he had this really weird affect where he would like lean back with his deep thoughts. And then he would like ding, look straight at someone's like chest area, boobies. And it was just so unprofessional. And it made everybody feel so awful. I mean, he did it.
Once you lean back, you want to
daily.
go like,
Yeah, then you're just like, especially in the summertime when you were wearing something really cute and you're like, oh,
Yeah, you're like,
there we
Lord.
go.
But
Yeah.
he did it all the time. And nobody, I think it was a long, long time ago, but nobody had kind of you guys have a lot of gumption to say like, hey, this is wrong. We all just sort of avoided him,
Yeah.
you know? And as a result,
But that happens a lot.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't know how to handle that kind of thing, you know?
Well, people feel uncomfortable. People also feel like they're in a position where they don't want to risk their job. They fear, I mean, all the things we teach in sexual harassment training,
Yeah.
right? Like they fear retaliation and
And he was
some people
he
just
was
don't know
a
how to stand up for
superstar,
themselves.
and he was really like he was kind of a favored nation status, right? With the company, everyone really thought he did a great job, and he did, but he was a perv, and it was gross, and we hated it.
Yeah, there's a lot of pervs out there.
But this was such a weird thing. He'd be like leaning way back, and then he'd come forward, and you're like, ah, stop looking at me.
I had a supervisor. I mean, I didn't think he was like the best looking guy ever, but there was rumor he was like, doing the dirty with a lot of the employees that reported to him. Well, I got a call in the middle of the night one time that there was like a fight in the women's bathroom. And so one of the ladies was pregnant, and turns out you go in to figure out, like, do an investigation. Why'd you beat her up? Blah, blah, blah. It's like they're both sleeping with the supervisor. He's got a special nickname. His face might not be that good, but something else is.
Lisa.
So not only
I don't
is
need
he,
the rest.
but not only is he sleeping with
Is that the
several
father?
employees. Yes, that's the father of
Oh,
the pregnant
no.
lady's baby. He's sleeping with somebody else. He's also got this like reputation apparently around the campus that he's the guy that you want to go to. So that's a great situation to deal with as like his manager or an HR person is kind of like trying
Or
to.
the team just totally
I mean, like the
breaking
entire
down.
team, and there's just like rumors everywhere with thousands of people just wondering what the heck is going on. with the supervisor. So like dealing with that was super interesting. But that's kind of a manager from hell. It's like just try to not sleep with people that report to you.
There's so many people in this world that
people
don't
that
work in your team.
And why
go outside of the team
or in your company?
Or if there's one and you get married, okay, then God bless, like it worked out. But like, don't sleep with like all the people on your team.
Yeah. Luckily, most of the situations I remember, like it was a happily ever after situation. So it's like, okay, now we can overlook it because they're actually like engaged now at this point.
Yeah, this is not a frat party. This is not a meat market.
Yeah.
This is not your personal Tinder. This is work, and you're getting paid.
Well, and I think what's hard is like you lose your whole reputation. Like I go back to that leader I talked about. I was embarrassed to talk about my many mentors throughout my career. I never mentioned him any longer after that all came out, right? And I didn't work for him by the time it all came out, and people became aware, and I don't know if I can't remember now if he left the company or if he moved to a different job where he didn't manage people. I don't remember, but I could never even talk about my greatest. He was one of my best mentors, and I was embarrassed. I'm like, I'm not giving him any credit.
Because they could damage your reputation.
Yes,
it's like,
I
well,
didn't want to be
how
aligned
did
with
she
him.
keep getting promoted? Like, oh, she worked for so and so.
What about like
I
kind
don't
of
think anyone questioned
kind
that
of
about
I
me.
know.
the same
You're a rock star. We know.
the kind of similar topic, but a little bit different. And this has happened to me a lot. I think I don't know. But when someone really starts to share a lot of their personal life with you, and they really cross that line, but they're your boss. And so you feel kind of obligated to listen to them, talk about their sex life and talk about their dating and what they're doing. It just is crazy.
You're so funny. I'm like, I don't relate. I never feel obligated to talk about anything with people I don't want to talk about.
I was in an office, and I'm not joking. This person came in, and she's like starting to date again, and she's like, I just got a new bra.
Oh, no.
She showed me her Wonder
What?
bra that squished her. I keep talking about boobies today. I'm so sorry.
So the message of this is Beth is really, really nice, and things
It's like
are
I
happening to her.
I need to really like
that have
learn
never
from you
happened
guys
to me,
But yeah,
'cause
so
I'm not
she
that
showed it
nice.
to me, and she's like, "Isn't this great? I'll be dating, and I just think that this looks good." And I was like,
On what planet
But
would
then
someone
she's
pull their shirt up
to show me their bra.
on Beth's planet?
Yeah, I was
Wow.
like,
Yeah, this happens
and I was
to Beth
sitting at
because
my
she's
desk.
nice and approachable. She seems like someone that might want to see my new bra.
Wow.
No.
Okay,
What did
maybe
you say?
I was like, wow.
It looks great.
She probably was like, "Oh, it looks good. I gotta go." Whereas I would have been like, "What are you doing?"
I really just was so dumbfounded. I was like,
Yeah, like,
and
I
also the door
can't
was
believe you did
closed.
that.
I felt very
Oh.
awkward because I
Oh.
don't think she wanted everyone else to see this great new bra.
She
that
knew
had.
enough to not
Yeah.
let everyone
Like,
see
this
the bra.
is going to be so great for my new dating situation. I guess that maybe
Who
is
can I
just
show
a
this
Beth
to?
thing, and
Beth.
maybe you guys haven't had these.
Was she trying to make a move, maybe?
Is she hitting on you? No, I don't
No,
think so.
maybe. I don't know.
We
No.
don't know. We'll never know because Beth didn't take the bait.
Yeah, Beth just was like,
Open
"Okay,
the door
I gotta
and
go.
left.
I
I
have
was
a
like,
meeting."
that is
Good
such
luck
a
with
pretty
your
bra.
date
Anyway,
tonight.
sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so we
Well.
talked about odd, weird things. What are some other things?
It's hard. I don't feel like I directly worked for that many
Yeah, but you've coached
managers that
from
I
hell.
would classify.
Yeah.
Mine were all just annoying because it's like, yeah, they're overly critical. They're a little micromanaging. Like,
those are typical.
I always was of the mindset in my old company is like, I'll probably only have to work for them for like a year and a half and I'll get promoted. So it's fine. Let me just deal with this. Right. And that's usually the way it worked out. But we had a lot of bad ones from just I had to dealt with a situation where the manager was literally stealing from the employees. Like it was like a contest type situation. She literally was like taking their stuff that they won and then like moving it over to like the column of stuff she won. So we had a lot of those. I dealt with a decent amount of leaders in the company kind of stealing.
like credit card fraud.
Yeah, I think those are situations where it's like, because what do you say to the people? And even though they're not, maybe directly affecting their people, it is one of those, like, the messaging you send, because you can't really say that much, but all of a sudden this manager's just no longer there anymore. And they have a team of people and some of them were very loyal to that individual.
Right.
And it's just like,
They might have been a decent manager.
yeah, they were a good manager.
Yeah.
It's just 3 years of work and everything just down the drain, from a reputation standpoint. So those are like situations I think of a lot. Yeah.
I think that sometimes some of the easier things are when people don't give really clear direction or clear, like, hey, this is my vision and this is where I'm taking you. And when they're the ambiguity.
Yeah, there you
go. It's so great that people are confused. I think
Yeah.
everyone really does. Well, this is my Pollyanna thing, but I think everyone wants to go to work and they want to succeed and they want to do well. And I think that if you're always if you're the manager, always changing kind of like the goalpost of where we're going, I think it gets really confusing and people are working down this path and then all of a sudden you change it without kind of communicating that to them.
I think that goes back to that same of like inconsistent from a behavioral, but then it's like also inconsistent on the goal. It's like yesterday the goal was this and now today the goal is that. Well, I'm confused.
And why did you change it?
Right. You've said this 3 different times. I mean, that happened to me as recent as this week.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, okay, well, I built that based on like what you asked me for. So now it's changing again. I just want to be clear, but like you're not recognizing that
you've changed
I follow
it,
what you asked me to do, and now you're changing it, and I'm like, I don't, you know.
What would be the help
navigate,
then to somebody who's new in management then if they're kind of giving inconsistent messaging?
I think just being clear. I think learning how to, you know, stand in what you know was the messaging prior and being able to give that back and say, I just want to be clear. Last week you asked me for X, Y, and Z due at this point in time. Now this week that's shifted or that's changed slightly and now you're asking me to do this. Am I clear in doing that? So you have to learn how to say it back in a way that's confident. It's not being combative. Like, you told me to do that different last week, right? It's just saying, I want to be clear. Because last week I understood it as this. Now I'm understanding it as this. So can we get alignment?
I listened to a really good, whether you like him or not, Bill Clinton, the master class about there's a clip in there called Agree to Disagree, and it's a 7-minute clip. It's worth the listen. But it's to this point, even if you have to go back to folks and kind of deliver bad news, like you got input from everybody on the team. You did a good job with the collaboration piece as the manager, but at the end of the day, you got to make a decision that's against everybody's will. So you're delivering bad news, but just at least telling them, just kind of biting the bullet and getting it over with versus letting it linger. And then people create rumors and or vacuums of information that's misinformation. And he says, like, just going back and saying, hey, I want you to know I've made a decision. It's one that you're probably not going to agree with, but I want to let you know that I took all of your input into advisement. I considered it. But here's the decision that I ended up making and why. And I really thought just laying it out in such simple terms, like, I've made a decision. You're probably not going to agree. I listened to you, but I still made a different decision and taking ownership of it. I am so sick of managers from hell, blaming everything on HR. I don't make the decisions. Like, we're sounding boards. We help facilitate processes. We help make sure people are thinking about things in fair and equitable ways. But at the end of the day, don't you dare, when you're standing behind a closed door with your employees, blame it on me.
Yeah, HR's making me fire you.
Yeah, HR, or they told me that.
HR told me I need to sit down and document this.
Or finance always gets, like, you know, they get put in the hot seat and they don't know it. Like, finance is making me eliminate a position. Finance is making me stick to my budget. No, you have a budget. Own it. You're getting paid the big bucks to sit in that manager role. Don't be a manager from hell and blame it on somebody else.
You have to think. I think the leaders that I've had a long career of the different people that I've really respected and I would kind of like walk through fire for are the people like you explained that are going to be really clear. And even if it is bad news, I'd rather hear it straight and have a little bit of a moment where they're apologizing, like, hey, sorry that we're going to have to let somebody go. You know, it's not what I want to do, but our sales are down, like some facts, right?
Yeah.
And then you can completely understand that and respect that person. But I think the wishy-washy manager, no one respects that.
Nope.
And you think it's so funny because I've been a young manager before and I'm like, oh, I'll just make everyone feel good. And guess what? It backfires on you because no one will feel good. You will have to deliver bad news regardless, and no one respects you or is following you at that point.
Well, I think, too, in the managers that deliver that bad news and kind of make it about them and not the people. And I remember back, you know, I had to close. I was a store manager at one location for 3 years, and I was closed that store, right? And it sucked. We had to get up in front of the whole, 200 and some employees and be like, in 3 months, you don't have a job, like. But I remember, being very clear with the team and saying, at the end of the day, the decision to close the store was about the business, right? But we don't take away the fact that the impact is about the people.
Right.
Right. And so being able to say, you can feel however you feel in this moment.
But
Yeah.
you
just
gave
allow
the
it.
facts.
I didn't make excuses.
Right.
I didn't be like, I don't have a job either.
Yeah.
Right.
And I didn't, and it worked out. Some of us stayed on with the company, moved into different jobs and different locations, and some of us did not.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of times, managers are like, this is hard for me too. Well, I don't care
No.
about you.
Yeah,
what do
they
I care about you?
Right.
That's a great point, because during terminations, and we still need to do the episode on great terminations, but like the number one thing I always tell a manager right before is don't say you're so sorry, because then you're making it about yourself. And like,
It's
you're so
them.
sorry. I feel so bad. I. No, screw you. You made the decision. Like, I'm the
No.
one that's losing my job here. I don't really care about you.
I think you can say these are never easy decisions, and the company does not take them lightly, right?
Right.
You can say something like that, right? And say, and we know that the impact is to you, right? And we recognize that.
Yeah.
And I mean, delivering that and getting the confidence and the language around that takes a long time. I don't expect new managers to do it well, but I do expect them to learn how to navigate through it and get better at it over time. And
For
the
sure.
ones that drive me nuts are the ones that are still sitting in executive positions that still make it about them. I'm like, you get paid $400,000 a year. Nobody cares how you feel right now.
No, you should be feeling fine.
Nobody cares that this was hard on you.
Nope.
So those are the ones,
Well, we've talked about a lot of managers from hell. There's plenty of other managers out there that we'd love to help get out of their hellhole. So give Leath HR Group a call if you need the help. But any closing comments about just advice on how to deal with a manager from hell?
Well, clearly I don't know how to.
What?
Quit and go somewhere else.
I think learning some good disarming language.
There you go.
I think language that feels like you can stand in your power in a professional way and
go.
actually take a stance. You don't have to just accept poor behavior just because that individual is a manager. But there are ways to say it so that it is not, so combative. And that's what I think a lot of employees don't ever learn that language and aren't giving their opportunities to train and develop those communication tools. And it is getting worse and worse as we get newer generations into the workforce that don't have those communication tools, that didn't grow up with those communication tools. We do need, as companies, HR leaders, to help individuals at all job levels, not just the executives that we typically work with, making sure that everyone gets some of those tools on just basic things that you can say. Just, don't let someone show you their bra and say, it looks nice, I gotta go. You gotta say, that is not
very
appropriate.
strange.
What made you do that? And think that that's okay, right? But no, I mean, other than that, I think that, if we have employers and HR individuals, listening to this is a good reminder that there's no time like the present to do a better job training managers, because if they didn't learn this stuff, they
don't
need
know.
some help.
Yeah.
And
They
they may
might not
not know how bad they are.
Yeah.
This is maybe the way they've just always spoken to people, and they continue that into, getting promoted into a manager role, and they never learn that you got to make a shift. And you have to learn, different communication. So
That's awesome.
I love that.
On that note, we're going to sign off. So I think we'll be back for another episode of Employees from Hell. And I want to thank you guys for being here. This is HR Nightmares. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, and definitely follow Leath HR Group on LinkedIn and all the other socials. TikTok, we've got a couple of hot micro clips out there. So leave your comments, leave your feedback. We'd love to get a 5-star review on YouTube. Thank you so much. Have a great day.